2 centuries after the death of Prophet Muhammad, the Islamic Empire faced an information crisis. Over 300,000 oral reports, or a hadith, were in circulation, each claiming to be an authentic record of his words and deeds. Without a verification system, the historical foundation of the religion was vulnerable. Every unverified claim threatened to bury the original record under a layer of fabrication and folklore. To solve this, the scholar Imam Muslim embarked on a decade-long project to filter this massive dataset and isolate the verifiable history. He employed a strict logic. Every report was cross-referenced with the Quran and subjected to a deep audit of its isnad, or chain of transmission. Only those with an unbroken line of verified, reliable narrators were accepted. The sheer scale of this filtration was immense. Out of 300,000 initial reports, his criteria narrowed the field to a core cluster of roughly 4,000 authenticated traditions. Through this process, Imam Muslim moved beyond traditional storytelling. He established a rigorously tested historical database. This manuscript represents the start of that database. Book 1, Kitab al-Iman, the Book of Faith. This volume functions as the operational baseline for the entire system, providing the definitions and logic used in the 42 books that follow. Kitab al-Iman maps the specific branches of belief and identifies the precise points where the theological system fails. To understand the resulting theology, we have to examine this book as an architectural blueprint of the Islamic worldview. The foundational framework of the text is the Hadith of Gabriel. It organizes human experience into a systematic, 3-tiered architecture. The base of the structure is al-Islam, defined here as the principle of physical submission. This layer is composed of observable actions, the establishment of 5 daily prayers, the payment of the zakat tax, the fast of Ramadan, and the pilgrimage to Mecca. The middle tier is al-Iman, representing the transition from physical action to internal conviction. This layer maps cognitive orthodoxy. It requires intellectual assent to unobservable concepts, the existence of angels, the role of the prophets, and the divine decree of destiny. The apex of the system is al-Ihsan, a state of heightened awareness and spiritual excellence. The text defines this pinnacle as worshiping as if you were in the direct presence of the divine, maintaining total psychological focus through the realization that even if you cannot see the Creator, you are always being seen. This hadith organizes the religion into a clear taxonomy, moving from the requirements of the citizen to the internal state of the individual. Chapters 13 through 20 zoom in to that middle layer, Iman, to reveal its internal complexity. Here, the text asserts that faith is not a simple binary state. It is a spectrum containing over 70 distinct, graded branches. At the highest point of this hierarchy is the theological declaration of the oneness of God. The lowest node of the hierarchy is purely utilitarian, the act of removing an obstacle or a danger from a public road. By placing these 2 actions on the same tree, the text links pure theology to basic public service. The branches in between govern the mechanics of social and civic life. Imam Muslim includes specific requirements here, such as ensuring a neighbor's absolute safety and the obligation to either speak constructively or remain silent. These civic branches provide the structural support that connects personal belief to communal stability. In this system, internal conviction and outward behavior are locked together. A person's standing in the hierarchy of Iman is demonstrated through their interactions within society. To define the system, Imam Muslim also had to define its limits. Chapters 25 through 48 outline the boundary conditions of belief. This perimeter represents the absolute limits of the system, the zones of nifaq, or hypocrisy, and kufr, or unbelief. Hypocrisy is defined as an internal corruption of the system's branches, rather than an exit from the system itself. The text identifies specific behavioral markers of this corruption: habitual lying, the breaking of promises, and the betrayal of trust. The text also addresses how major sins affect a person's standing within the architecture. Sins like theft or adultery are treated as temporary suspensions of the state of faith. They damage the person's connection to the system, but do not result in immediate theological expulsion. However, there are specific terminal violations that trigger an absolute system failure. Chapter 38 identifies shirk, or the association of partners with God, as the primary violation that severs the believer from the system entirely. A second terminal boundary is established in Chapter 48, the act of suicide. The text describes suicide as a total system collapse. The perpetrator is conceptually frozen at the moment of their failure, destined to repeat the act of their own destruction. Through these classifications, the text provides a clear distinction between behavioral failings and the total nullification of faith. When viewed as a whole, the system provides a comprehensive map for both the individual and the community. Imam Muslim's Kitab al-Iman serves as the functional framework for a multi-layered social and psychological order. Ultimately, it builds a hierarchy where individual physical actions support a complex network of civic and theological obligations. This model ensures that religious conviction is always tied to observable societal contribution, bounded by clear and absolute failure states. This foundational volume provided the essential definitions used to build Islamic law and civilization for over 1,000 years. It established the specific parameters for what it meant to belong to the community and what was required to remain within it. By applying a rigorous filter to the oral traditions of the past, Sahih Muslim provided the theological and social blueprint that would define the Islamic world.